Hello, lovely students. Welcome to another interesting lesson in mathematics. This is our second lesson on commission. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to find the total sales when we are given the commission and the commission rate. But before that, let's remind ourselves of what we have learned so far in lesson 1. In lesson 1, we learned that commission is a form of payment. We also learned that commission can be a form of bank charge. In either of the two cases, we are made to understand that the commission is a fixed percentage of the total amount of money involved. This fixed percentage is referred to as the commission. Lastly, we also learned that to find the commission, we multiply the commission rate by the total sales. I hope you have remembered this very well. Now let's look at how we can find the total sales when we have the commission and the commission rate. We just revised in our previous slide that commission is given by multiplying the commission rate by the total sales. Now we are looking at the case where we have the values of the commission rate and the commission, and we have to find the total sales. Because we have the values of the commission and the commission rate, we substitute them into the equation. Then we make the total sales the subject of the equation. After we have done that, we can solve for the total sales. I believe the understanding is very clear to you. Let's look at an example on this. A sales girl is given a commission of 20% on the sales she makes. If her commission in a particular week was 1,000 Ghana cedis, find the total sales she made. We are going to solve this question together. Make sure you follow attentively. The 20% we have here is the commission rate. When we express 20% as a common fraction, we get 20 over 100. We are told her commission was 1,000 Ghana cedis. We all know that commission is given by multiplying the commission rate by the total sales. Because we have the values of the commission rate and the commission, we're going to substitute them into the equation, and that is giving us 1,000 Ghana cedis equal to 20/100 times total sales. Now let's make the total sales the subject of the equation by taking the 20/100, which is multiplied at the right hand side of the equation, to the left hand side of the equation. Now because the 20/100 is multiplied at the right hand side and is taken to the left hand side, it goes to divide. And that gives us 1,000 divided by 20/100. It's called the total sales. Here we have a whole number being divided by a fraction. I hope you can remember how to divide a whole number by a fraction. We leave the whole number as it is, change the division to multiplication, and turn the fraction upside down, giving us 1,000 times 100 over 20. It's called the total sales. Now we are going to simplify the 100 over 20 by dividing. 20 divides itself 1. 20 divides 100, we get 5. So we are now getting 1,000 times 5 is equal to total sales. 1,000 times 5 gives us 5,000 Ghana cedis. This means the sales girl's total sale was 5,000 Ghana cedis. I believe you have learned something today. We have learned that to find the total sales, substitute the values of the commission and the commission rate into the equation. Now, make the total series subject to the equation and solve for it. Thank you very much for being with me.